Anyone who wants to stop a good school being opened is not a good person.
Yeah.
They are a bad person.
Yeah. Welcome back to ModCons. Today I'm joined by Simon Dudley.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Former chair of Homes England and Ebbsfleet, the first garden city in a century, Simon Dudley is a senior fellow at Onward think tank and on the board at popular pro-housing movement Cons YIMBY. He started out in finance with over 30 years at HSBC. Is that correct?
Oh, and Citigroup, my own business, lots of big banks.
Love that. Before working on the £16 billion privatisation of the airport operator BAA of Heathrow Airport in 2006. So he understands development and infrastructure at a national and local level, having also led the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead Council. If anyone can help us figure out the housing crisis, it's Simon, and we're absolutely delighted to have him with us today on ModCon. Simon, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you, Jamila. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Hi,
You've
everyone.
done a lot. You've done a lot.
Yeah, I
Which is
have.
good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
More to do though.
More to do. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you were chair of Homes England, a huge role. Could you tell us some more about it?
So Homes England is the National Housing Agency.
Yes.
It used to be called the Homes and Communities Agency.
Right.
It is a number 10 appointment.
Right.
And I actually, when I went onto it in 2019, Lord Lister now, Eddie Lister, was the chair. And over time, I became the senior independent director. And then when Eddie went to run Boris's campaign, and then subsequently, after Boris was successful, went into number 10, I became the chair.
Nice.
So I spent just under 5 years at Homes England. It is a muscular, sort of proactive entity that owns land, develops land,
Yeah.
provides all the affordable homes program grant funding for affordable housing.
Yeah.
It has on its balance sheet all of the Help to Buy, about £20 billion worth of Help to Buy on it. Yeah, bless Help to Buy. We need to do something like that again to help people on the housing ladder, in my view. And does a lot of master planning for big developments like North Stow up in Cambridgeshire. So, very kind of interactive, is sort of national housing agency. So about 2,000 employees, say balance sheet of over about £24 billion or something like that. So, accounts for, this is quite a killer stat, about 60 to 70% of the revenue expenditure of MHCLG.
Wow.
So it is huge in the context of MHCLG. Let's put to one side the grant funding for local authorities, but the cost, the revenue expenditure of running, Homes England and MHCLG, the civil servants, by far the largest part of that is Homes England.
Wow. Wow, that's massive. So why did you want to join? Why did you want to, be part of it? What was appealing about it?
Look, I've always really believed in housing being, the bedrock of, our democracy, basically giving opportunity to people. You've got, you either rent a home at a price you can afford, or you own your home, you can start a family. You've got, security. Clearly, it also addresses homelessness as well.
Yeah.
So, Homes England was the National Housing Agency. It was the place that I believe should be, making a, fundamental, sort of contribution to doing that. So going on the board was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I was on it with some, very good other directors. So I think we achieved quite a lot. We could have done a lot more.
Yeah. So you said you achieved quite a lot. What were your big successes during your time, do you think?
Well, actually, I felt, people are critical about it, but I think Help to Buy was a success.
Yeah, I agree.
Sort of hundreds of thousands of people got onto the housing ladder as a consequence of it. You can argue about whether it was structured as optimally as it could have been.
Yeah.
But frankly, as an intervention, it was highly efficient. And then, the Affordable Homes Program, grant funding to create affordable housing, that was highly successful. Big developments that Homes England was involved in. I think that was also important. Yeah. Look, it's, I've got a certain view about whether I'll carry on with Homes England now. Right. But I think it did achieve some meaningful things.
Okay, well, let's go to that because it's technically a quango, right?
Yeah.
And quangos are very controversial. What are your thoughts on them? And do you think their power has increased over time, overreached over time? Where do you stand on Homes England and the point of that, I guess, well, quangos in general?
Yeah, look, I'm generally anti-quango.
Yeah.
Hundreds of these things, spending about £400 billion a year. Right. They are, let's just think about the way that they work. They have, independent boards where there may have been some governmental involvement in the nature of the non-executives who go on there. I've been involved in a number of these recruitment campaigns, so I know, the way that cards are getting dealt from the bottom of the pack to try and bring people onto the boards.
Yeah.
But they are still, independent, and you haven't got the same degree of control as if you've actually got those powers in the hands of a minister or secretary of state.
Yeah.
So I think there's been far too much outsourcing of power to, relatively unaccountable quangos.
Yeah.
And that power should be returned to ministers, people who are elected, effectively returned to our parliament. Secondly, they, by their very virtue, attract additional expenditure just because they're big things.
Right.
So, I think there are a number of them where they should just be abolished.
Yeah.
We should scythe through them when we get back into power.
Yeah.
Specifically, right at the front of the wood chipper for me would be Natural England.
Yeah, that's a controversial one.
We love the environment. We want a beautiful place to live, but that is a dysfunctional organisation which stops development and economic growth.
Yeah.
So, there are a number of them which should be effectively abolished and powers returned to ministers.
You're chair of the representative planning group, a cross-party group on housing with Labour MP Mike Reeder, which is very noble.
Yeah.
A lot of heavyweight Conservatives were very supportive of Labour's proposed reforms on planning, which were controversially watered down to tighten EDP's environmental development plans, which basically require developers to demonstrate how they will kind of redress environmental harm during construction, that kind of thing. So it's good for bats, but does slow down development. What are your thoughts on this kind of thing? Do you think that Labour have made a bit of a boo-boo on tightening those EDPs and kind of going back on?
Yeah, look, I think, we thought when we took a major shellacking in the general election that, Labour are going to be terrible, but, maybe a silver lining is that they will find it easier to do things on development housing than, basically a NIMBY flavoured Conservative Party,
which we definitely were.
And let's be clear, right? We got destroyed being like that. Okay, everyone. So that did us no good whatsoever. We lost a lot of the blue wall. That did not yield any results. That was a waste of time. But in reality, what has happened over time is that Labour have generally been captured by the same pressure groups and have gradually diluted and come back from the more fundamental legislative changes that they wanted to do there. Look, to round out that response, I'm a big supporter of the legislation that Robert Jenrick wanted to bring through. A zonal planning system with far more presumption in favour of development, making it far easier and faster to build things. We incorrectly backed off doing that after the Cheshire and Amersham by-election. So that was a massive missed opportunity by the Conservatives, in my view.
And on that, with Homes England, part of the reason of its existence was to kind of help to encourage affordable housing. And we've seen affordable housing starts in shared ownership and rent to buy fall by 68% in the last year. Obviously, this government say that their moral mission is to, provide affordable housing. Do you think then, is this because of Homes England that they're not really following through, or is it the fact that Labour's policies are so restrictive with stamp duty increases, capital gains tax increases, council tax increases, those kind of things? Are they the things clogging up the market, or is it the quango?
Well, look, sorry, everyone, bit of breaking news here. The Conservatives were partially responsible for the mess that we're in that we introduced a lot of legislation, which, it's very interesting. A major house builder, I won't name them, showed me a deck which looked at a central London development, which was done in 2014. I think it was about 350 homes, flatted development, which was completed. And then they overlaid the changes in legislation, a lot of which we introduced with all good intention, but we introduced. And then that development, which was 350 homes, actually had lost over 100 homes and was no longer viable. So it wouldn't have happened in a post well-intentioned, let's introduce all of this legislation, this regulation. So, and that you can see that has happened in London. Building safety regulator is just stopping development. People aren't
thing.
2 staircases, the height of it, the time it takes, the uncertainty. So just layering more and more regulation on things. it's effectively layering more and more cost on it, and regulations about dual aspects and energy efficiency, and so all of these things have hampered the housing market. So again, some of them need to be really stripped back in order to facilitate, and that doesn't mean building poor quality, dangerous homes, but the pendulum has just swung too far, in my view. So, that is an important thing that the centre right need to do in order to stimulate housing development, is make sure that things can become viable again.
The challenges with that, like obviously when you think about like the staircase rule, that was a result of like the Grenfell fire, right? So it was huge. So is there a problem where you feel like the public have a reaction, they want an answer, they want someone to show that they've understood the huge impact of this, disaster, so they want to see something happen, so then people regulate to show that we've learned from that mistake? Where's the kind of balance on that? How do you not make it over bureaucratic?
Absolutely. Look, Grenfell's absolutely terrible. Number of specific failings relating to that, and clearly recommendations which come out of that, some of them were extremely sensible to stop that happening again, but others probably went too far. It was 6 stories, really the right. Dual staircases was that right. I haven't got the exact number to mind, but there are an awful lot of people who are killed on our roads. But we are not regulating to stop people driving motor cars. We're trying to make them safer, but we're not stopping the car. And in reality, you could say a home is more important than the car. So why are we introducing regulations which are stopping housing? So it's a matter of degree, I think.
That's fair. So obviously we all know about Labour's manifesto commitment to deliver 1.5 million homes by the end of the Parliament. So to do that, they're going to have to deliver 300,000 homes a year. Last year, there were about 38,000 starts overall. So it's not looking good. How do you think that they can improve on this in the next 2 to 3 years?
I don't think they really will. They've got absolutely no chance whatsoever of hitting 1.5 million homes. And they didn't at the start of this Parliament. They were never going to do it. So at the moment, they're still, though they won't admit it, they're still in a free fall. The market hasn't bottomed out, let alone started to pull up. And there's also a danger that, given how absolutely terrible this Labour government is, in my view, that as we get closer to a general election, things will just slow down because people will think, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to be able to get these guys out. I'm not going to do this now. I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait. So I think the country will be in that situation, providing we have a united centre right, that we're not splintered, allowing a kind of a progressive rainbow alliance to carry on doing their destructive work. They'll be out, they'll be gone, and they deserve to be gone because they're destroying the country. In my opinion. So I think that's
hold fire. So you don't think the market's bottomed out yet?
No, I think it's going to get worse.
Help us.
It's going to get worse.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of people? I say this all the time. A lot of people revaluing their homes to like 1.95 million, or is that just a bit silly? Well,
that's just more Labour complete nonsense, like that on private school fees and the like.
Exactly.
It's just class warfare.
It's class warfare.
It's a tax on success and aspiration.
Absolutely. And so, what are your thoughts? Obviously, you are an integral part of the Cons YIMBY movement. What are your thoughts on Labour's policy to increase housing targets in rural areas? As someone who lives in a fairly rural.
Well, I live in Maidenhead, and hey, look, the skyline of Maidenhead has changed, and a lot of people would put me down as being responsible for that. But look, Maidenhead is, let's take that as an example. It's a commuter town. It's got the Elizabeth line there, which I came in on today.
Nice.
The town centre was, no one was in it at night. It was run down. There's barely any decent retail, but it's being transformed. There'll be a lot more housing in there, and a lot of people able to commute, well, both ways. Commute into London, commute to Reading. So it will transform the town. That's great. That's the right thing in Maidenhead. If I then go to, let's say, Joy Morris's seat in Beaconsfield. I'm a member of the Beaconsfield Association as well. I can see why, in some ways, she's got the approach she's got, because you don't want to take a beautiful Bucks village, so chocolate box village, and stick a load of ugly modern, sort of houses in it, create a sprawl, and infill between lovely villages. So, there is a degree of where we do this. There should be far more density in development in our big cities.
Yeah.
In London, it isn't dense enough. It isn't high enough.
Yeah.
And in other places where you've got those kind of transport nodes, like Maidenhead.
Yeah.
Now, anywhere you've got that kind of investment in public transport, there should be a hell of a lot of development around it.
But then as someone who, is from a city, I always feel like, why do I have to get all the ugly buildings? Why do I have the ugly skyscrapers that are going to look terrible in 10 years?
Yeah, look, some of them you do see them and you think, what on earth is this going to look like? Yeah. So look, that is about, better design.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I look, I was chair of Absolute Development Corporation.
Yes.
And you could definitely see some of the early developments there were just not of anything like the high quality they were later. So you can affect it through condition.
Yeah.
But in that you've got to have skilled officers making sure the right conditions are attached to it, and policies as well.
So on that, obviously we've got a lot of Conservatives who are YIMBYs, which means who are NIMBYs, sorry, not in my backyard. But we've got the Cons YIMBY movement trying to convince, more Conservatives, more people in general to, want building around them.
Yeah.
Why should Conservatives be pro build baby build? What's in it for them?
Look, I'm going to be pretty brutal here, because the people who vote for you at the moment are dying.
Yeah.
Right. 1/4 of the people who voted Conservative in the last general election, sadly, will not be with us at the next general election. So unless the Conservative Party renews its voter base and has younger people, and by that I mean 45 and down, voting for it, the Conservative Party is out of business.
Yeah.
It's change or die. That's my view, very simply, right? Because if you can just see how the average age at which someone votes Conservative is going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And as they say, death rate holding steady at 100%. Yeah. So you've got to renew your voter base. Sorry, hard message. Hard message, but that's the truth.
And so you are a board member of centre-right think tank Onward, which is, the kind of the father figure to Cons YIMBY. And I think Onward's really good at kind of speaking to that 30 to 40 something millennial who we're not capturing. Outside of housing, what message can we as Conservatives be giving to that type of voter?
Well, look, I think we need to, make it easier to have a family.
Yeah.
Childcare costs are just crippling for people. We also, look, as much as I'd like to have, taxes on current wealth cut, abolished, inheritance tax, it's a terrible tax.
Absolutely.
You can think in a list of priorities, it should be more important to reduce the tax on working people, younger working people, give them an opportunity to save for a house and have all the things that I was fortunate enough to have.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real priority, the family and cutting tax for people who are working, because there are just less and less people who are economically productive supporting this sort of bow wave of welfare dependency.
Yeah.
So I think that is extremely important.
Yeah.
But another thing, I'm going to branch out here.
Go for it.
Energy abundance.
Yes.
We have just disproportionately high energy costs in this country. We're effectively deindustrializing. This is something that people like Nick Timothy have been very keen on. Yes. Gavin Rice here at Onward. So we are exporting our emissions, exporting the jobs, deindustrializing, feeling very virtuous about doing that, right? But, we've got no jobs, we've got no industrial base, right? And we can all see the cost of our utility bills, our power bills. So, we need abundance of energy, more energy sources, far faster planning, ability to bring through that, open up the North Sea again, nuclear. We need to drive down the cost of our energy. That's very important. And that's a big point, which Onward stress.
And with that, obviously the North Sea is seems a bit fantastical at this moment because of, how powerful the green lobby are. I mean, they couldn't even get the planning reforms through without that being tightened. So how realistic is it that we're actually going to be able to start drilling in the North Sea?
Yeah, I think absolutely we have to do it. Well, look, so you look at the difference, in a way, on these issues, the Overton window is moving so quickly.
Right.
Look, and you've got to accept that is in a significant part because we have someone like Donald Trump as president of the United States. We've got people like Elon Musk with a platform like X. Yeah. So, what is regarded as kind of an acceptable approach to things now just was somewhat exotic,
Right.
a relatively short period of time ago.
Yeah.
So the Overton window is moving very, very quickly
Yeah.
because people can see the effect of some of these policies in terms of, in terms of wealth, jobs, industrial activity, and the like.
Yeah.
So again, it's very clear as that becomes, more and more into, the front of people's minds that we have to do that. There is no alternative.
Yeah.
And then you've just got to face down these, these lobbying groups, and they're absolutists. Some of them are perfectly nice people, but they're absolutists. They, even if you give them X, they'll still want 3 times X, 5 times X, 10 times X.
Right.
They won't stop until we're living in a cave.
Yeah, absolutely. So what energy do you think we should be focusing on? Is it nuclear only? Is it nuclear solar? Is it just going back to the old school? Where do you think we should be?
Everything.
A bit of everything.
As much of it as possible, competing against it to drive down unit costs.
Yeah, fair. Okay, I love that. So,
and fracking. Let's frack.
Oh God, okay, this is very controversial now.
Yeah, let's frack as well. There have got to be places in our country where we're able to do that.
Yeah.
I was talking to a energy expert who's in the Maidenhead Association.
Yeah.
Great guy. And he was saying it's complete nonsense, this kind of false, sort of earthquakes narrative that is, it's disseminated to scare people. It's just, and he's drilling, gas and oil, sort of oil rigs and in the Gulf.
This is bold, Simon, because I mean, if we can barely get people to build a 3-story, 4-story apartment block, how are we going to be able to drill in their backyard?
Yeah, look, this country's going out of business. Have you not noticed that?
Right. Yeah? Fair. I'm playing devil's advocate here, by the way.
No, sure.
Okay,
I'm being provocative.
No, I like it. So as well as being chair of Homes England, you were also chair of Ebbsfleet Garden City, as I mentioned, the first garden city in over 100 years. Now it's due to complete around 2035 and deliver 15,000 homes by then. Can you tell us a bit more about it, and why did they opt for a kind of garden city over a new town?
Yeah, look, we debated a lot what a garden city is, what a new town is. Look, in reality, it is significant state-owned land around the high-speed one rail link, with very fast connectivity into King's Cross, about 18 minutes through Stratford. So it's a fantastic place. It's a sort of post-industrial landscape over there in Ebbsfleet. By that, a lot of chalk extraction for cement industry. You're in the Thames estuary there. So a really interesting topography there.
Yeah.
And it is going well. I think the 5,000th home has been completed there. But these things take an awful lot of money to bring them about, because they're not viable economically on their own. So there needs to be a lot of governmental grant funding. Sadly, Labour are not going to, I know this, they're not going to provide that funding. That's not generally out in the market, but it is now. I know they're not going to do that, right? Mr. Pennycook is not going to do that. He's not going to come up with the money. But as I said at the end of my time on the board, the land is not going anywhere. Au revoir, we'll come back and we'll get it finished.
Right. Wow. Okay. So they're not looking like they're going to spend any more.
No. They'll spend more, but they won't spend enough to finish off what needs to be done.
And so, like, one of my favourite schemes I always bang on about is Battersea Power Station, right?
Yeah.
Which is so well done, because like that mixed use, you've got like shopping, lifestyle, office, retail, all just so well done together. But that was a Conservative, obviously led, but investment led by the Malaysian government, I think.
They came.
Is there any, I guess there's not as much appetite for that kind of thing now, just because the landscape in the UK is not that appealing. Do you think there's a case, or anyone who would be interested still in investing in the UK, or is it a case of people waiting until 2029?
Well, I think that, it's an interesting one. It comes back to, look, Eddie Lister was heavily involved in that Battersea Power Station when he was, when he was working with Boris. And, I think a key part of that was putting in the extension of, the tube network, right? Which facilitated a degree of viability there. But look, I think the UK is still attractive. It's still attractive. In fact, a chap called Rob Tinknell, who was the promoter for Battersea Power Station, is the promoter for the redevelopment of part of Maidenhead. And like a week ago, after deferring it and humming and ahhing, eventually the planning consent for something called Nicholson's Quarter was approved. So, he can go and work his magic in Maidenhead there. So, there may need to be, some state support to create viability. And I think that's where we have to consider, to there's nothing evil or wrong
Yeah.
in the private sector making profit, right?
Right.
If we didn't make profit, we wouldn't have jobs,
What's
we
the
wouldn't
point?
have,
Yeah.
wouldn't have viable pension policies, we wouldn't be able to live satisfactory lives when we're older.
Yeah.
Profit is good,
Yeah.
right? Not rapacious profit, but reasonable profit.
Yeah.
So, I think there's, it's still attractive, but there may be situations where the state has to step in to create viability.
Yeah, that's fair. And so, like, one of the places that's really hot right now is Manchester. We're seeing a lot of foreign investment there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because of the mayor? Do you think that our mayor is not necessarily flying the flag for investment in London? And do you think we need more people like Andy Burnham, or is it just because Manchester's very, I don't know, entrepreneurial at the moment?
Yeah, look, I think Sadiq Khan is absolutely terrible, right? He's a blight on London
Yeah.
as one of the world's truly great cities.
Absolutely.
Massive crime problem,
Yeah.
doesn't build any homes, just spends his time virtue signaling,
Yeah.
talking absolute nonsense, right?
Facts.
The sooner we can get him out, the better,
Yeah.
right? And get someone from the centre right, in.
Yeah.
So to an extent, look, Burnham, I have more time for Burnham than Khan. I have zero time for Khan.
Same.
He's absolute terrible.
Yeah.
Absolute terrible. He's a pest.
Yes.
I think it's, there is a great opportunity to do more in London.
Yeah.
I think Burnham has drawn things together and he's been more proactive
Yeah.
there. I worked in Manchester probably, 30 odd years ago.
Wow.
Lived in Salford.
Nice.
And I went to the party conference, obviously, we're there.
Yes.
And when you see the skyline, it's a miracle.
It's
I just think, yeah, look, we can get it right.
Right.
Sometimes we
Yeah.
can get this stuff done. So, I would say, look, all credit to him. Look, I don't care where you are on the political spectrum. If you get stuff done, then I respect you.
Yeah.
Whether you're Labour or whatever else. Some respect to Burnham for making sure that's got done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always think that when I go to Birmingham, I just think of Andy Street and like, look what he just did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big things. Now, changing tack slightly, you founded Holyport School, or is it Holyport?
Holyport College.
Okay, cool. Oh, Holyport
College. It could be
Holyport.
Sorry. Probably is in Kensington.
Yeah. It is a free boarding school with Eton College, and you also founded Forest Bridge, a special school. What inspired these?
Well, I've always been I've got 4 kids,
Yeah.
so I've always been like pro education as, opening a door to opportunity for your kids. You can't have equality of outcomes, but equality of opportunity is what we should be striving for. So when I was a council leader, we had a big site where we could build under the free school program.
Yeah.
Michael Gove, huge,
Did so much,
huge clap and applause to Michael Gove and Dom Cummings. Well, his span at that time. So we were able to create with Eton College, Holyport College, which is a state boarding school. My youngest daughter, she went there.
Nice.
Used to have
she loved it?
She loved it, and she got to Bath University. She's reading pharmacy there. Cool. Great school, state school.
Yeah.
And Forest Bridge School was for kids on the autistic spectrum. Again, free school. I don't think the Conservative Party has made enough, noise about the success of the free school program.
Yeah.
I think it should be central to what we want to do moving forward.
Yeah.
In some ways, when you see the left attack things, like I was attacked, relentlessly for setting up a school, like how weird are people really? That shows that people know they're attacking you because they know it's politically effective.
Yeah.
Right? These are great schools. We should create lots more of them. So Simon Clarke here has been trying to get, some free schools, 6th form free schools opened in Middlesbrough with Eton College again.
Yes.
There should be lots more of that. It should be central to what the Conservative Party is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that, I mean, Eton up north, I think they're called Eton Star Partnerships, but they partnered with Star Academies to deliver free 6th form colleges in the north of England, and it's now being blocked by the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. What are your thoughts on things like that? Because I think she's holding up another 44 free schools. It seems criminal.
It is criminal. And it always amazed me that, as I just mentioned, you would get attacked for opening a school.
Yeah.
Right? Attacked for giving a child a better opportunity in life. So for me, it is the defining thing in a politician about whether you can work across the aisle and you are in it for the right reasons, or whether you're basically just not a nice person.
Yeah.
I'll say it as strongly as that.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to stop a good school being opened is not a good person.
Yeah.
They are a bad person.
Yeah.
And they should be called out for it.
For sure.
So Bridget Phillipson you know, prove that you're a decent person.
Yeah.
Allow these schools to go forward.
Yeah.
Allow a fantastic school like Eton College to create more fantastic school places in the north.
Yeah, free education in the north from Eton, and she's got this mad.
Yeah, look, one of my kids went to Eton College, an unbelievable school,
Yeah.
right? Kids worked super hard. Eton put a huge amount into making their partnerships a success. No matter how much they do, they know they're still going to get attacked.
Right.
So they know it's not like some force field, which is going to protect them.
Right.
They're doing it for the right reasons. Allow them and other schools to use their excellence and expertise to create more fantastic schools. Prove as a politician you're a decent person.
Yeah.
Not that you're a bad person.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's the challenge.
Yeah.
There, of course, there are in other political parties, there are some good people. As an example, Mike Reeder from the Representative Planning Group. He's a good guy. Right? He's in it for the right reasons. So there are across the political spectrum some good people in there. And so we just need to do more to give people the opportunities that other people had, like me. I'm a bit older. Had when they were younger, and that's why I'm a conservative, and that's why I'm a conservatively politically energized. I will do more to make sure that younger people get the opportunities that I had.
And what was the moment that you kind of thought, actually, this party's kind of for me, or was it always that way?
Yeah, look, it's always been the Conservative Party. There's definitely been moments when I thought, is this this party for me, right? I've thought, the Conservative Party has lost its way.
Right.
I thought it was a complete rabble army in retreat in the last general election, and it got exactly what I thought it was going to get.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to have the forest fire come through, clear out the brushwood, allow the new growth. And so I think it's a super exciting time now. The work that Onward are doing, all the people around Onward, people like yourself, fantastic prior candidates, to just drive forward the centre right and fix all the things that need to be done in this country.
Amazing. And where do you think the Conservative Party needs to be in 4 years? Like, what's your vision for it? And what gives you hope?
4 years, it needs to be, we need a Conservative as Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's where we will be.
Yeah.
Either on our own or with our friends. You're like, look, you can view the centre right, but this is just my view. No doubt, heresy to some, right? It's like a big family. It's had a bit of an argument. Some people are living in one house, other people are living in another house, right? But hey, look, let's all come together for Christmas, have a nice Christmas, right? Walk into number 10 and make sure we don't have a continuation of this terrible Labour government.
Yeah, fair. No, that's it. That's a great way to end it. And Simon, I thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for your time. Yeah.